Ever woken up to loud, terrifying noises in the middle of the night, feeling as if a boulder has been put on your chest and you find yourself unable to move? And the nightmare gets more terrifying when you see a ghastly shadow or a demon standing over you, only to realize it's not a nightmare but you're awake and the monster is actually there staring back at you. Well, if you have ever felt this while sleeping, you have experienced sleep paralysis. And it can be one of the scariest experiences of your life. However, there are ways to deal with this. But if you do these 7 things, you could make it even worse and you might not be able to get out of this terrifying situation. So stick around because in this video we'll be telling you 7 things you should never do in a sleep paralysis. Number 1. Refrain from letting your imagination run wild. Despite being 2 distinct occurrences, hypnagogic hallucinations and sleep paralysis can happen at the same time and can feel terrifying. A person who has sleep paralysis feels awake yet will be incapable of moving their body. Hallucinations of sounds or feelings, such as those of a person present in the room or perhaps even on their chest, are common during its occurrence. In several reported cases of sleep paralysis, people have described hearing loud sounds like throbbing, screaming, ringing, blocking, and buzzing noises. Several people have reported hearing voices, whispers, and roars. Also, during an episode, one may have a severe headache with a heavy pressure on their chest. Strong feelings of dread and panic are frequently present, and it also includes the sensation of being dragged out of bed or feeling as though they are flying, being numb, and experiencing electric vibrations or tremors throughout their bodies. Hallucinations related to an intrusive presence, a shadowy figure in the room, feeling as though one is suffocating, and constantly being watched by a demonic presence can be a very dreadful experience, which is exactly why. A vivid imagination is quite the opposite of what you'd need at that point. Because if you let your imaginations run wild, you'll be seeing all those creatures you were thinking about in your head, and doing so is just going to do the opposite of help. Especially when you can't escape, and seeing those increasingly terrifying hallucinations in the darkness of the room will make you panic. And believing what you see will. Which is what brings us to our next point. It's important to know that hallucinations aren't real. And believing what you see to be real will only do more harm than good. It will actually create an even more awful situation than the one you're already in. If you see terrible creatures and start believing they're real, you're going to panic, and not being able to move with a demon hanging over you will increase your apprehension even more. By making yourself understand that these creatures aren't real and just figures of your imagination, you will be able to master some control over your thoughts. And will result in a higher chance of you being able to talk yourself out of the state of terror. So remember, it's important to focus and remain calm as soon as you realize you're in sleep paralysis. If you begin to panic, it will only lead to more negative thoughts and more dreadful creatures appearing in front of you, so it's important to remind yourself that nothing is real, and it is just your thoughts. Mastering control over your brain at that moment will be the best thing you can do to get out of that situation. The quicker you realize they are just hallucinations, the easier it will be for you to remain calm. In sleep paralysis, you will be unable to move. And the more you try to fight or struggle, the worse your paralysis will get. It's almost like self-sabotage. You'll unconsciously conjure up more demons. You can't move, fight back, or run, and the sooner you understand this, the better. The idea is almost as similar to trying to take off a tight t-shirt. You'll feel constrained, and will try to struggle to get away and release yourself. But the more you want to fight back, the tighter you feel. There is a good possibility of you thinking you'll be able to get away, but failure to do so will cause further misery and anxiety. The horrific nature of the hallucinations increases with your level of distress. It's a never-ending loop. But instead, consider what you can accomplish. Making tiny movements in your body to assist a quicker recovery from sleep paralysis is achievable and might even be helpful. A great trick is to try to move your fingers a little or concentrate on wiggling your toes. But make sure you don't try too hard or move too fast. Your movements need to be slow, and you need to understand that it may take quite a while for you to be able to come out of the paralysis. While you are in sleep paralysis, whatever you do, do not keep your eyes open. Like we told you before, during this experience you will be hallucinating and hearing horrific noises, and you will be tempted to open your eyes and observe your surroundings. But that's the last thing we would recommend you to do. Keeping your eyes shut tight will be the best thing to do in a sleep paralysis, as you won't be able to see the terrifying visuals you tend to see in this experience. You can control your hallucinations to a certain extent and not ponder over those imaginary figures and see things that were not originally there in the big dark room. As obvious as it may sound, closing your eyes might be the most beneficial action. This will help you block out terrifying visions and, ideally, give you some undisturbed time to soothe yourself down and concentrate on something calming. Nothing is more horrifying than waking up to see a shadowy creature standing at the foot of your bed, but if you close your eyes, you won't see it, which will make it much simpler to focus on something uplifting, making the terrifying monsters go away. But just be aware that what you are seeing is not real if you really wish to take a look around while experiencing sleep paralysis. In a state of sleep paralysis, never assume the worst. We believe you can already predict how being in an unsettling condition of sleep paralysis and expecting the worst will pan out. Negative thoughts can make your paralysis symptoms worse. Yes, this might be the result of such hallucinations once more. Imagining these worst-case situations might lead you to invent as terrifying of a hallucination as you can. If you're able to think positively at these times, maybe it will develop into something more enjoyable, like lucid dreaming perhaps? For people who have never experienced sleep paralysis or who don't yet have a solid knowledge of the condition, it can definitely be frightening. It's terrible to lose basic skills like movement or voice suddenly and for no apparent reason. The fact of the matter is that practicing self-awareness may also enable us to practice better restraint. Your mind is in an odd position when you are experiencing sleep paralysis. It feels like you are stuck in the middle of a dream and the actual world. Because if you think of something, it most likely will appear. Since the hallucinations you experience are dependent on your feelings and thoughts, your ideas frequently become reality. Therefore, with sleep paralysis, if you imagine anything dreadful like ghosts or shadowy creatures entering your room, it's likely that it will happen. Therefore, don't assume the worst scenarios and think of positive situations, calming yourself down. We assure you, if you follow the steps in this video and avoid doing these 5 things in a sleep paralysis, you can conquer your fear and have more control over your conscious state during these episodes. Now that you know the reality behind these scenarios and how to get more in control, there's no need to worry about alien kidnapping or dark demons. And besides, you can even take efforts at home to manage sleep paralysis if it occurs on various occasions. To start, make sure you receive sufficient sleep. Make every effort to reduce stress in your life, especially before going to bed. If you normally sleep on your back, try a different position. And if sleep paralysis consistently keeps you from receiving a decent night's rest, be sure to visit your doctor. We hope this video was helpful for you in finding out the fatal consequences of doing these things during sleep paralysis. If so, don't forget to press the like button. Have you experienced sleep paralysis? What did you see? And how did you cope with it? Let us know in the comments below.